I didn't make this story up. I first heard it at a hardware store counter on a cold, windy morning out in rural Kansas. And ever since it has resurfaced, now and then, passed along the way country stories always are mouth to mouth, never written down. The place sits on a little back road about 15 minutes south of Council Grove, near a narrow valley where the trees cast long shadows over a creek. There stands an old, low-roofed log cabin that was once a hunting shack and later became what everybody calls the House of the Hands. The cabin has 2 front windows. The one on the left is ordinary. The one on the right is the one, a 4-pane sash whose upper pane, on the inside, always shows 2 open handprints, as though someone pressed there, forehead almost touching the glass. They're not large hands. Many say they're a child's. Others think they belong to a small-handed woman. What matters is that no matter how hard people scrub, sand, or scrape, the prints come back whenever the weather turns damp, as though the cabin itself breathes, and, with each breath, lets memory surface. The first to tell me was Neil, who owns the hardware store in Strong City. He swore that in the 1990s he sold the cabin's owner, one Ray Whitmore, every cleaner imaginable glass spray, steel wool, even razor blades to scrape tight. Ray spent 2 full Saturdays working that pane until it was spotless. Monday morning, he drove into town wearing a crooked grin, bought nails, coffee, a pack of donuts, and said, "That nonsense is over." That afternoon, a light rain drifted in, humidity settled, and by nightfall, with the cabin lights on, the hands were back. Ray didn't mention it for a while. After that, others say the prints sharpen in cold weather when condensation forms inside. A trucker who pulled over there, once friend of my brother-in-law, claimed he saw them at 5 a.m. one January, fine ice forming on the fence wire. He swore he could make out the thickened skin at the base of the thumbs and a tiny nick on one index finger, the kind you get opening canned food. He also swore there was a hazy oval at nose height, as if the person had breathed on the gloss while waiting for something outside. At the gas station, they talk of a substitute teacher who rented the place 5 months while saving to move to Emporia. She ignored the warnings that country folk give softly, never pushy. 2 weeks in, she bought heavy curtains so she wouldn't have to look at the window at night. One Saturday, she decided to end it once and for all, removed the sash, laid the pane on her kitchen table, and cleaned it with vinegar, alcohol, even baking soda. It shone. She reinstalled it, and for a few days nothing appeared. But the first spring thunderstorm whined from the south, smell of wet soil. The handprints rewrote themselves in the fog, same place, same height. Some tried to explain it. Darrell, a longtime handyman, says old wood memorizes oils and moisture. Natural grease of skin sinks into pores, and when the glass heats and cools, rises again. Could be. The trouble is, the entire window was replaced in 2004. New glass, new frame. The lumber invoice carries name and date. The county was enforcing code. The carpenter, Wade Minix, lives 8 miles away. He swears that when he finished, he checked inside and out to be sure everything was clean. 2 weeks later, after a sudden cold front, Wade returned to tighten a hinge, and there they were handprints, clear as ever. On brand new glass dot, by then the story had grown its own legs. Everyone adds a tiny detail that never changes the bones. The Methodist pastor says no one should peddle fear where there's only old sorrow. Eunice, who sells produce at the Saturday market, says that as a girl, she heard of a sick child living in that very hollow in the 1950s rheumatic fever. Some say pneumonia, others. Country medicine went as far as money allowed, and sudden weather could turn deadly. Eunice recalls her mother mentioning a little window of cold glass where the girl would press her face to watch for her father coming up the road. No one can prove it's the same cabin, but everybody senses it. A mailman named Darrell once knocked there with a misdelivered package. No answer. Circling, he peeked at the window, looking for movement, and saw on the inside the 2 prints and a shred of cloth caught on a splinter. When Ray Whitmore died and his nephews listed the cabin, the shred was still there, a strip of blue shop rag. It proves nothing, but in the country those tiny signs serve as reminders that not everything fits on paper. If you drive by in late afternoon, you'll think it's just a tired house. The yard isn't manicured, yet it isn't wild. The gate squeaks more from age than neglect. It's at night that locals avert their eyes. Young folks park, get out, wanting to test. They slap greasy French fry fingers on the pane and laugh, then snap photos when the fog brings out their own smears. But once phone lights go dark and the wind speaks, they notice the old prints still lurking underneath, waiting for a change in the air to rise through. I don't know what it is. I only know the right-hand window keeps those 2 prints the way a clock keeps ours. They appear when they're meant to. And what people say, with the care of those who know the countryside clings to its memories, is that no one needs to prod too hard. Some houses remember for us. In that one, the window does the remembering **ask around the diner in Cottonwood. Falls and someone will know someone who's seen the handprints in the cabin window down in the hollow. The teller changes. The story hardly does. One says it was his brother-in-law. Another the night the high school team lost the regional final ordinary anchors that hang the same truth on. The thing exists the way rural things do, quiet, repetitive, without an audience. A few years back, when they tried to sell the place outright, the real estate agent Lay from Emporia asked Wade to shoot interior photos. He took an old Canon and a friend to swing doors. It was late September, hot afternoon, sharp temperature drop at sundown. Wade shot the bedrooms, kitchen, wood stove, and lastly the windows. Nothing odd showed on the camera screen. But at home, on his computer, 2 shots revealed, in the upper pane of the right window, faint moist handprints and a slightly paler halo between them. At face height, they didn't glow. They merely caught light differently. Wade said nothing loud, just advised Lay to skip those shots in the listing, and she agreed. Someone sought more technical proof. Then, a heating and cooling guy from town brought a thermal camera to check insulation. Walls showed the usual: damp at the baseboards, drafts around joints.